Hey there guys, this is Sid, or Soulcaster on the TOR forums, bringing you another video of Commando, Healer Commando, in 2.0, and getting ready for 2.4 arenas. My other videos were before 2.0, but a lot of what I said in those videos still stays true to 2.0 and on, and so now let's just show you how I have my guy set up for Healing Commando now. At the end of this video, I'll go over all of his gear, so you can sort through that separately. But basically what I do is I have, let me just change the stats. I go with 70 crit multiplier because my boots, pants, gloves, and helmet all have alacrity in it, just 4 pieces of alacrity. This is pretty much crit surge, and then this is all power surge. The whole rest of the suit's power surge. I use the Partisan Serendipitous Assault, and I use the Matrix Cube. So out of war zones, I only have 1909 expertise. Max is 2018. But the difference is, in war zones, the Matrix Cube bolsters up to give me full 2018 expertise. So out of the war zones, this is what my PvP stats look like. 60 is max here, 37 is max here, and 20 is max here. So obviously, out of the war zones, I'm not that far off. So even in open world PvP, this setup is pretty solid. But in war zones, it's on par with everything else. I'm currently in full Partisan gear, so if you have Conqueror that's min-maxed, you actually would have a little bit higher stats than what I have here. But this is what I go with, and then this is the talent tree that I've recently found that I like using the most. I did have points elsewhere in certain different things, but I found that this is what works best for me. Basically, since 2.0 came out, they've added these 4 boxes. This one actually was always here. They just changed it around a little bit, and then these 3 were all newly added. The reason why I have alacrity in my gear, 4 pieces of alacrity in my gear, is because I pick up the alacrity box here in First Responder, and then the alacrity box here. What that does is when I get the crit proc here, like so, it brings my main heal that I use down to 1.8. Now this typically would be a 2-second heal, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but it kinda is. 1.8 seconds versus 2.0 is a big difference. As you can see, when I don't have the crit proc up, it's 1.9, but it's pretty easy to get that crit proc. And then if you hit your recharge cells, obviously it does it even more. 1.7 now. 1.7. So that's the reason why I like just a little bit of alacrity. If you didn't want to go with the alacrity and you wanted to stick with the 2.0 full cast heals, totally fine. Basically, you would drop the alacrity, the power and alacrity out of the enhancements here, and you would go with power and surge. So I would pick up 5% more crit multiplier. Crit, obviously, if you've been reading up on 2.0, has been changed. If you look at my old Commando videos, I think my crit was at like 35 to 40% crit. Obviously, you can see that it's heavily nerfed in 2.0. They changed crit a lot. So typically for a Healer Commando, or pretty much almost every class, you only want 20 to 25% crit chance, because it's really hard to get any higher than 25, and you're going to sacrifice your tech bonus damage or force bonus damage if you're playing a Sage or something if you go with too much crit. So you want a lot of power and surge, and you could basically sacrifice the 5% crit multiplier like I did to pick up alacrity on some classes if you like it. I don't really use alacrity at all on my Sage, but I do on my Commando, and I believe some scoundrels from time to time use alacrity, just a little bit, probably in the same aspect that I'm using alacrity. So if you look at my talent tree here, you could change a couple boxes around. So obviously if you don't like the alacrity here or the alacrity here, you could put them back into taking 2 to 4% less damage, or you could pick up the Colto Bomb, or you could pick up even more crit here with special munitions. You could put these 2 points over to here, you could take 1 point out of that, so there's room for moving stuff around. Probably one of the most controversial boxes that I found kind of annoying at first was this box, Colto Wave. It makes your concussion charge heal your allies for basically 1,200 to almost 1,500 hit points. So when you use your knockback, see, that just healed my allies for 2,300. So it heals you and any allies around you. The problem with it is concussion charge for Healer Commando is on a 30-second cooldown, and you typically don't want to be using your safety knockback, get enemies off of you as a heal. But I found that when I do need to use my knockback, it's because I'm getting focused anyway, so it's nice to have an extra heal in an emergency, basically. And if I can get a bunch of my friendlies in with that, that's a nice bonus too. I felt that extra healing every 30 seconds was a little bit better than the 4% damage reduction. And the reason why I only went with 1 point here is because it's only a 3% healing increase. Kind of nice to have that box, because basically of this box, it increases your healing over time that's left by the cultist residue. So it's up to you, but this is what I use, and the reason is for the alacrity boosts when I'm healing. I like to get my casts off a little bit faster, and I miss my 2.0 or pre-2.0 Healer Commando healing actually a lot faster than this. My cast on this was 1.6 before 2.0, so they nerfed alacrity too a lot in 2.0, so they changed some things around. But I found that this suit setup and this expertise setup is what I've done best with Commando. I haven't really been paying attention to my HPS or my healing per second in Warzones lately. My best that I've kept track of recently was 1707 HPS, but I have no problem being top healer almost every single Warzone, and you could easily do over 1 mil healing in good Warzones. Typically, the only people that would beat my healing is the Scoundrels, like a really good Scoundrel healer, just because they're, I'm not going to get into saying they're OP, but they're the best, arguably the best PvP healer at the moment. Sage is close second, and then Commando's unfortunately in third place for healing overall. But Commando will have benefits in arenas if you're good, in the fact that they're a little bit more tanky. Sages on the PTS are currently having a little bit of problems with squishiness, so you need to have a good tank with you and a good team, which is basically what all arenas are about. But the Commando helps in the fact that it's a little bit more tanky, and you don't have to worry about healing 8 people, which is where Commandos kind of had problems, because it's a really good single target healer, not an 8-person healer. But in arenas it's down to 4 people, so now you're on a tankier healer, less people to heal. So I think Commandos will be totally viable with 2.4 arenas. Just get your stuff together. After that, let's talk about basically, in my old video I talked about what I do and my rotations and stuff like that. Obviously, before you start every match, you want to work up your 30 stacks of the supercharged cell. You do this by doing this, or you can cast your medical probe to give you another 6. Also, now when I'm using my heals, I basically I try to only use medical probe when I can use advanced medical probe before it. The reason is this box here, field triage. Every time you use advanced medical probe, a chance to reduce the energy cost of your next medical probe by 8. So if you didn't notice, they actually changed the ammo cost for Commando in 2.0. It's actually the same as it was, but they made it more on par with Bounty Hunter, because Commando had a 12-cell ammo system, and Bounty Hunter had a 100 energy or heat energy system. So basically with Commando now, they made it exactly the same as Bounty Hunter. They put it on a 100 ammo system, but what they did is they left the 12 cells, so those Commandos that are familiar with the visual cells, you could still see both. I actually like this a lot because it helps a lot for me. So on my Bounty Hunter, I kind of don't like the heat system. I don't like that it's a reverse mechanic and it goes up and not down. So I like that the Commando has both, basically 100 ammo system plus the picture of the cells. So going back to this, I try not to use my medical probe unless I can use my advanced medical probe before it, because basically this took 3 cells or 25 heat or 25 energy cells now. So you use advanced medical probe before it and then medical probe, because you'll see that if you start spamming medical probe, which is arguably your strongest heal, you're going to run out of action extremely fast, and once your Commando is out of action, you're in deep trouble. Commando has some pretty heavy action management issues if you're not careful, so it's important to watch that, because the lower your ammo cells are, it has diminishing returns on how much ammo you're getting back. So it's not like a flat rate you're gonna get. It's not like you're gonna get 10 ammo every second. It diminishes the lower the ammo you have. You could see by this indicator here. This is currently 2, now it's 3. So you can hover over the ammo and you can see how much you're getting, and you'll see that it changes. So what I do is I use advanced medical probe, then medical probe, and then instead of using another medical probe, I can use my back to infusion, or I could throw in grenade, or hit a colto shell, or trauma probe rather. And you have a lot of different options, or you can, if you're low on ammo, you can always go with the auto heal. This is what I call the auto heal, the green beam. You kind of want to only use the green beam when you're low on ammo. So let's say I get my ammo down to here. I'm gonna want to maybe start throwing some other heals, stuff that's not going to cost action. So this back to infusion, which is the top box ability here, it doesn't cost any cells. So you could hit that anytime you want, anytime it's up. And when I throw in your Culto Bomb, every time you can get a group of people together. As you can see, it leaves the heal over time. It hits and then ticks for heal over time. That's from this box here, Culto Pods. So you got your 30 stacks, you've got your advanced medical probe and medical probe, and so when you use your supercharged cell, which is here, when you got your 30 stacks, I like to alternate between the two. So you can go advanced medical probe, and what supercharged gas does is it makes your advanced medical probe not have a cooldown, and so you could use it again. You could also spam it like so, but the problem with that is you're not taking advantage of the field triage box when you have your advanced or your supercharged cells activated. So you want to take advantage of the fact that you can have your advanced medical probe with no cooldown, and you could spam one then the other, one then the other. If you want to use your supercharged gas or supercharged cells and just spam advanced medical probe, it does have benefits to do that, and the fact that it's on a 1.4 second cooldown versus a 1.8 or a 2.0. So there are times where, let's say this guy's getting focused hard, and you don't have time to get that extra 0.4 second cast off like a medical probe, and you just want to throw him 3 quick heals. That's totally fine. I wouldn't always recommend it to be your go-to, but if you want to get some super fast heals out to him, totally understandable. The other thing with the advanced medical probe is that if you pick up this box, it puts a heal over time on the player, as well as an armor boost. So there are times where I'll have a bunch of players low on health, but not maybe drastically low. I'll use my supercharged gas or cells, hit advanced medical probe on this guy, giving him a heal over time and the armor buff, and then I'll go on to the next guy, use it on him, then use it on myself, and then go back to the first guy and then use the medical probe. So it's important that when you're playing a class, any class, regardless of what it is, but let's say Healer Commando here, it's important that when you're picking the talent tree boxes, that you read and understand what each one does, and then after you've got your whole setup, you then go back and see how you could better implement each skill in certain situations. So like example, you pick up this box, allowing you to use your advanced medical probe before medical probe, which helps you reduce ammo costs. So you should see that and say, oh, okay, well, maybe let me try and always try to use advanced medical probe before medical probe, because it'll save you ammo. If you're not going to do stuff like that, well, then you can just totally spend these 3 points elsewhere. You understand what I'm saying? So you have to find out what's good for your playstyle and what you like, but more importantly, understand the boxes that you're picking and why. A lot of people they'll be like, oh, what's the best Healer Commando build? Oh, it's 45-1, okay. And they'll put 40 points in this tree, 5 points in this tree, and then 1 point in this tree. But they don't technically know why they did that or where the points went. So it's important to understand what you're picking and why. It's important, let me talk about arenas a little bit. It's important that you know that in current war zones, you can use not your advanced medical probe, but your emergency medical probe. This is your combat res. In war zones currently, you can get this off probably 3 times in a war zone, because it's got a 5-minute cooldown. And then in arenas, you currently cannot use this at all. So in arenas, there's no resing at all. But if you're currently playing regular war zones, especially with a friend, don't forget about your advanced medical probe. Hardly anybody reses or resurrects people in mid-war zone. Excuse me. So it shows that you're a better healer when you can get some reses off to your friends, because especially in war zones like a Void Star where you're defending, you don't want your guy to die and then have to sit behind a 30-second cloner door, because that'll break the difference between keeping them off a node or not sometimes. So if you're playing with friends especially, don't forget about the combat res. It's something that's very overlooked and not a lot of people use. Only like the top tier healers use this kind of stuff because people forget about it, honestly. I did myself for the longest time. I've been playing Warzones for a year and a half and only started recently using this, like, I don't know, 6 months, a year ago, if that. So there was a whole long time where I was healing and not really using it too often. It just kind of slipped my mind. So I'm telling you guys, don't forget about your in-combat res. And like I said, in arenas, they're going to get rid of that. So arenas are currently on the PTS, a public test server, best of 3. So you go in there, you have 1 life, last man standing, it wins for the team, and then you go on to round 2 and then round 3. It's a best of 3, so if you win your first 2, obviously you win total. And there's no resing. So when your guys die, they die. So it's 4v4, best of 3. And when you go into the war zones, you can see who you're up against, shows the name, their class symbol and class, and basically if they're DPS, tank, or healer. So you get an idea of what that's going to be like. And if you guys could read up more about the arenas coming out. But unfortunately, with 2.4, one of the big changes that they're making that I don't really like is they are removing 8v8 ranked. So there's still going to be 8v8 objective regular war zones, but the 8v8 ranked is going to go away at this time. And they're just coming out with the 4v4 arenas. They are going to be either solo queue ranked or 4-man queue ranked, or solo queue regular or 4-man queue regular for the arenas. So there's going to be a whole bunch of different game types now. And the arenas are fun. And hopefully you guys can take this advice and start playing some Healer Commandos and representing some Healer Commandos out there in the arenas. I know a couple people are starting to grind them again and thinking they're going to be they're good for arenas. Currently, I can honestly say that Scoundrels and Operatives are extremely popular in the arenas, mostly because of their already good healing and the stealth mechanics. But I think that if you play your Commando or Merc well, that you can definitely have a place on a team, because you can throw out some good healing as well as be very tanky and keep yourself alive. Don't forget that when you use your energy shield, I know a lot of you PvEers don't really get this box because you're not worried about being interrupted, but this box in PvP is really essential. It prevents you from being interrupted while you have your shield activated. So keep in mind that when you're in arenas, when you pop the shield, aside from being stunned, no one's going to be able to interrupt your heals. So that's one of the perks of Commando, is that there's nothing they can do aside from stunning you that's going to prevent you from being interrupt these healings for that short while. So you always have a couple of seconds of constant heals, which is nice. And if you have your CC break up when they stun you, that's a good thing too, because then you could just break their CC and continue keeping the heals going. So I hope you found this video helpful. I hope it didn't run too long, because I know my last one was like 30 minutes or something crazy. People were complaining. Just if you have any questions, go over the video again, or feel free to leave comments on YouTube, or check out our forums at weaponsofwarguild.engine.com, engine with a J. I'll post the links here at the end of the video. And now I'm just going to show you all the stats that I currently use on my guy. So thanks for watching, guys. If you have any other questions, feel free to hit me up. Take care.